start here in just a second. So get your pizza, settle in. Sorry for the delay. One of those days. Oh, that's perfect. Got it. Maddie, can you see the slides? Perfect. Is your presentation switch over to the switch? Okay. All right. Welcome to Green Spaces for our April Lunch and Learn. I'm Michael Walton. I'm the executive director, and we've got a really exciting presentation for you today. But before we get started, for those that aren't already familiar, Green Spaces is Chattanooga's sustainability nonprofit. Our mission is advancing the sustainability of living, working, and building in Chattanooga and the surrounding region. And everything that we do is because of your support. We would not exist without you. To start off, a huge thank you goes to everybody involved with the Chattanooga Green 3. We had a massively successful race out at Volkswagen. Big kudos to Madison, wave, and Jacqueline, wave, and the whole Green Spaces team. Another big thank you to the Build It Green team who's here. Build It Green, stand up. We had a huge amount of help from Build It Green. Thank you all. If you're interested in getting involved with the Green 3 as a sponsor, as a volunteer, please reach out to Wayne at greenspaceschattanooga.org. We're going to be having another race in the fall, in October probably, and we'll be back out at Volkswagen for round 2. So in other big news, the city of Chattanooga officially passed the Climate Action Plan. Another big round of applause. Congratulations to everybody at the city that was involved with developing that, with educating city council about it. Thanks to everybody that came out to speak to city council in support of it. This is a really big deal, and it is a great roadmap for where we're going to be going really in the next 15, 20 years. So you'll see more about that as we get into the sort of planning phase, which is next. There will be a number of committees set up that are going to be working on these different goals. And if that's something that you want to be actively involved with, please let us know, and we can make sure that we keep you informed as that moves forward. Francine, where's Francine? Is Francine here? Oh, there she is. So Empower, so Francine has got a bunch of workshops coming up for Empower to teach low cost and no cost ways for people to lower their electric bills and make their homes healthier and more resilient. We've got seasons changing here. We get a lot of pollen. So now's the time to change those air filters, make sure that your air conditioning system is serviced and that it's running efficiently. Upcoming green drinks will be at Inline Electric, April 26th from 5 to 7. You can RSVP on our website, but Inline is actually donating, or has already donated, some new light fixtures for us that we'll have installed probably next week. We're excited about that. And then Eco Field Day is coming up, Earth Day, April 22nd. We need more teams to come out and compete. So if you remember how much fun Field Day was as a kid, we have a bunch of Field Day games that you can compete in as a team of like 3 to 5 people. These can be friends, these can be coworkers. How many teams do we have now? 3 teams. So we need a lot more because we have Finley Stadium for this event and we want to fill it up. We've got a lot of exciting events, and we need more teams to sign up. If you have questions, talk to Madison afterward or myself. Also coming up are the 2023 BRIC Awards. That's building recognition in Chattanooga. There's sustainability awards, building industry awards. This is a great event, and it supports high school students that are interested in going into the building industry. Green Leader, more exciting news. So Chattanooga State is now offering Green Leader. Members, Green Spaces members get a discount on Green Leader depending on the level. But this is a really great way to learn how to be that champion within your business or organization, and to lead the change that you want to see. And while after you're done with Green Leader, you can help your business get Greenlight certified. Greenlight is now part of Green Spaces business membership. It's not a separate thing anymore. Every business that's a Green Spaces member is now a Greenlight participant. And so if you want to learn how to make your business more sustainable, please consider being a member. And so thank you to our members, our founding members, Compass and Franklin. Thank you to our top members. Thank you to our green level members. And thank you to our nonprofit members. These are the organizations that allow us to do what we do. Green Spaces, all of the work that you see is because of the support that we receive from the community. So thank you to our members that make all this possible. If you want to become a member, either as an individual or a business, come talk to myself or Wayne after the lunch and learn. Just housekeeping note, all of the plates, bowls, napkins, cups, and cutlery are all compostable, and all the food scraps are compostable. So please, on your way out, be sure to put everything except for the cans in the compost, and then you can put your cans in the recycling. If you have any questions, just talk to a Green Spaces staff. So, with that, I am happy to present to you our speakers for today. So Paul Beckman, who is our former treasurer and still board member, who's the CFO for Wind River Custom Homes. And we also have Amelia Dix, who's the sales manager and customer advocate for Wind River Custom Homes. They're going to talk about some really awesome innovations in the housing space and how the sort of missing middle can help with affordable housing challenges, and just improve the diversity of the housing stock in our communities. And with that, I will hand it over. Stop sharing momentarily. Let's see, which browser do you want? This one? Yeah. Is that? Just checking, Maddie, can you see the slides? Great. Take it away, Paul.
Thank you guys so much for being here today. It is kind of cool to see a full house and to be able to give this particular presentation for the first time to everyone that's here. We feel really strongly about the material that we're going to cover. And we encourage you to ask questions as we go, and ask for questions at the end as well. But we work for Wind River Custom Homes, or Wind River Tiny Homes. You might have heard of us. We're located out in Atherton, just on the fringes of Hamilton County, facilities. And I came on in 2020 after I moved here, after a very stressful home buying experience, and now part of my daily job is to help people navigate and create a path for themselves in the current climate of the housing supply and the housing crisis. So I'm the sales manager, but I'm also the customer advocate. And what that means is we participate in advocating for our customers and broader acceptance of different types of alternative housing, advocating for, hey, we build tiny homes, but they're like super nice. And it's been incredibly rewarding. We feel very strongly, like I said, about this material, so we're excited to share it with you for the first time today.
So like Michael was saying, the mission of Green Spaces is to make the way that we live, work, and build in Chattanooga more sustainable. And in Wind River, we have a lot of alignment with that mission, especially as it relates to how we build. So yeah, we're all familiar with, issues with the housing market right now. I'm sure we all know someone that maybe is really struggling with rent or struggling to find a home to purchase, or just dealing with what's currently on the market and not able to find the house they want to move here or to move to a different neighborhood. And so really what we want to talk to you all about today is how is our company's journey to diversify into the modular home building category, to bring innovation to residential housing and to provide more of the missing middle, more of the shapes and sizes of homes that are missing from our housing stock. And yeah, we really appreciate you guys being here. We'll get started.
So while we're doing all of this research every day and all these initiatives are going on in government studies and zoning reform, there's that timeline happening, but then we were peppering in this presentation with case studies of real people to remind everyone of like, while all this is going on, real people are being affected, and it's no longer affecting a small sector of a society. Like Paul said, someone who's struggling to find housing, someone who's struggling to pay rent. And so we want to be a louder voice for them. Meredith was a lady that we were working with right when I started working at Wind River in 2020. And she has a home in St. Elmo and really loves tiny homes and wanted us to build one for her as an ADU, which is an accessory dwelling unit, a backyard, like a granny flat backyard unit. And we had her out to the shop, several conversations about layout, and she loved tiny homes so much, she thought, well, the initial idea was to rent it out for income or to have it as a place for family members to come and stay. But maybe I'll move into the tiny house and rent out the big home, because she really felt drawn to the smaller space, and that less is more. That's something that we also say a lot. But as she really started getting into project viability and seeing if she could do it, there are zoning restrictions in place that prevent someone from placing a tiny home on wheels in Hamilton County as an ADU or otherwise. So ultimately, we were not able to help her due to government restrictions.
So we've been building tiny homes on wheels certified as park model recreational vehicles for a long time, since 2014. And it's not for everyone, but also it's hard to find a place to park. The best places to park are at campgrounds, RV resorts, tiny home communities, or if you have rural land. And so every week, literally every week, we're having people like Meredith reach out to us. They're wanting to either live in a tiny home but can't find a place to park it, or they're wanting a smaller home but just can't find a builder to build it, or they can't find a small home in the housing stock, and they're just coming to us and asking us what to do and what the solutions might be. And so this is this customer value chain, this listening to our customers, getting all this customer feedback, talking to all these people that want to either live in a tiny home or a small home, that really led us to decide to evolve as a brand. And so Wind River Tiny Homes, we're going to keep building the tiny homes on wheels. We're not going to stop doing that. We'll keep doing that on to the future. We're doubling down on that, but we're also diversifying into modular homes. And so we're really excited for that and to bring that forward. And we're going to talk more about the modular home building category. So again, the presentation is really about how our diversification into the modular home category is going to help provide the shapes and sizes of homes that can fit in the missing middle. So this slide shows some mismatch with the housing stock and home buyers. And our markets and our economy are really predicated on supply and demand syncing up, but these graphs tell a different story for the housing market. So the one that with the green bars on your left, that is from about the 1970s to 2020, and that is census data about new homes built that are 1,400 square feet or less. And you can see that declining over time. You can also see it really leveling off at the bottom after the housing crisis in 2008. So we're really not building smaller homes anymore since 2008. And compare that to the other graph with the blue bars, it's headed in the opposite direction. This is also census data. It's the same time period, but this is census data for households of one. So this is just single people in a home. And this is going up and up while smaller homes are going down. So we all know that, you know, our society is changing. The shape and size of the American household is changing. People are getting married later. People are having less kids. Families just look different now. Not everyone needs a large house. And so this is just showing kind of the mismatch between the small home supply and people that don't need a really big house.
So another thing to point out is that the graph that Paul was just talking about is probably even steeper.
Is it okay for a question?
Yes.
Maybe you're gonna do it later, but maybe this would be a good time to explain what the missing middle is.
Sure. Yeah, so,
I'll figure it.
okay. We do have a graph and a beautiful picture coming up, but it is the types of housing that we used to build that we no longer build. So this is showing that we no longer build small homes. What we build now is an average of 2,500 square feet for a single family home. That's what contractors want to take on. It's what nets them the most profit. The other thing that contractors and developers want to do is high-rise apartment buildings and condos. And it's basically just super high density or very large single family homes. And that's creating a lot of societal issues. And so we're going to talk about the different types of missing middle housing and how we can make it pencil for people. That's the biggest problem, is it's not profitable for people to build certain types of developments, but it needs to be the people in front of city council that are getting time in front of those people are developers getting project approvals. So these are the things that are getting green lighted. And what we need more of is people from our community all across the nation telling city council, we are being underserved. We need something different. This is not solving our problems as Chattanoogan's. Does that answer the question? Okay, we'll get more into it for sure. I wanted to explain a little bit more about the blue lines, and this shows the rise of people living alone, but there's also an increase in people living as two. So now over half of America is a household with one or two persons. So if you Google the average American household size, it's still going to say 2 point something, because there are still nuclear families and families with plenty of children that are making that above two. But it's really important to just come to terms with the fact that over half of America does not need a 2,500 square foot home. And then on the left, I want to give some more clarity around the percentages of homes. So this is just number of homes, but the percentage of single family homes that were less than 1,400 square feet used to make up 60 to 70% of new construction back in like the 50s and the 60s. And now we're down to about 10% nationwide. That number is actually even smaller in the South. In the Southeast, it's more like 7 or 8% in Tennessee. So we're just not building small homes anymore, but we desperately need them. And when you look at a misalignment like this, you think, okay, well, the problem is so obvious what we need. Why aren't we addressing it? And so that's what we're going to get more into. This is where we take a moment to really put some numbers out there. This is the median home price of new construction in 2020, all the way to 2022. So you see an increase of $100,000 of an average cost of a home. That's unsustainable. It's forcing people out of the housing market, and it's creating a lot of problems for us as a society. We read these articles every single day about, you know, it's just not Chattanooga, it's everywhere in the country. New York Times, this article about whatever happened to the starter home is really powerful data about how we got here and what it means for us. Got the next slide for me. This is talking about rent prices. This is another big issue. So rent has gone up 18% in the past 5 years, and we've seen no change in minimum wage during that time. So in Chattanooga, these are your average prices for 1 and 2 bedroom rent. It's $1,330 and $1,520. What that means is if you're a single earning household, you have to work full time at an hourly wage of about $27 an hour to be able to afford that.
and not be housing burdened, which is defined as spending more than 30% of your income on housing. Anywhere in the country right now, if you work full-time for minimum wage and you're a single earning household, you cannot afford housing. That's a big problem. Check to check, and complete inability to build any sort of wealth, and complete instability that your landlord's not going to hike your rent next year. I'm saying for the people, we've got over half of America that is one or two persons. And for them to be able to afford housing, they have to make about a nationwide average of about $25 an hour just to be able to not be housing burdened. And there's also studies that show that there's a correlating increase in homelessness for every time we raise rent by $100. So it just compounds on itself, and we need to really take a look at what the solutions are and do it quickly. There are so many reasons why housing prices and rent prices keep increasing. It's a very complex problem. We don't claim to have all of the solutions, but we'll talk about sort of the top reasons that we see contributing to the instability of housing prices. The number one, or what I would say is the number one reason, is going to be exclusionary zoning policy. This is when they say you have to build a home that's no less than 1,800 square feet. When you require people to build homes that are larger than what they need, it hurts everyone, because if we allow for smaller types of housing, then people can spend their hard-earned money back in the community and benefit Chattanooga, instead of, there's this theory that if you have a minimum square footage requirement, what that means for the city is, oh, we get more property tax so we can improve our city, but we're really just beating people down. Like in Red Bank, the minimum square footage is like 1,600 square feet. So there are cases of people who have a small home in an area with a minimum square footage requirement, and it burns down, and they are legally not allowed to rebuild their home. And those people end up moving away and being farther away from their family because of exclusionary zoning policy. I'm going to encourage you to read some of these bullet points so that I don't go down rabbit holes for these things, but zoning policy is number one. Number two is raw material pricing. Lumber has been in the news a lot, but that's certainly not the only thing that is just unpredictable. Like in our industry, steel was up quite a bit, and spray foam, all sorts of electrical components. These things are really contributing to pricing volatility for building new housing. The quote at the top is from Justin Wolf. I asked his permission to use this quote. It was for an interview that he did, I think, for the Times Free Press about affordable housing initiatives in Chattanooga. And he said, there's no financial reason to build a single family unit that's smaller than 1,600 square feet. And what he also said in that interview is that contractor grade materials, just materials, not labor, this was back in 2021, were $130 a square foot just for the materials. So raw material price increases. The number three reason that we'll list is construction industry as a whole. I think Paul's going to talk about this a little bit later on, but just for industries of that size, the construction industry, traditional on-site construction, is becoming less and less efficient over time. And then number four is society. We're moving. People are trying to escape places where they've been priced out of housing. It seems like every time you turn around, you're meeting another Californian that has moved here, or someone from Montana that has bought, a massive property here in Chattanooga. And what that's doing is they're able to pay top dollar, and it's increasing our home prices and contributing to the overall problem. Yeah.
Yeah, so another example, another case study from a past customer prospect. This is John. John was born and raised in Chattanooga, moved away, wanted to move back, and he wanted to move into North Shore, North Chattanooga neighborhood. And even though he was 6'3", he was still wanting to live in a tiny house. He wanted to simplify. He wanted to not be house burdened. And he got a real estate agent, started looking for land. He called us. We invited him out to the shop to see our products and our tiny homes on wheels. And while he was there touring our facility, he got a phone call from his real estate agent. Real estate agent just said, sorry, John, like tiny homes on wheels not allowed in Chattanooga. You're not going to be able to get one. And we just had to kind of watch him firsthand just get real downcast and disappointed. But this is just another example of someone that is really willing to go smaller. And so let's kind of move on here and talk more about how we can achieve a more missing middle construction. So we'll pause here and talk about what exactly a modular home is. But first, I want to just kind of, up to this point, we've been talking about the problem, and now we really want to introduce a solution for us and for what we think our customers need. This is why we're diversifying into modular homes, is because we think we can pick up efficiencies, and we think that we can build smaller homes for people. And so, like Amelia was sharing, Justin Wolf's quote about it does not make economic sense to build a home less than 1,600 square feet. Well, there's a lot of reasons for that. There's a lot of inefficiency in building a site-built home, and there's a lot of inefficiencies in the residential home construction industry in general. Since the 1950s, every major industry in the United States has gained labor efficiencies over time, except for residential housing. So there's new technology, there's training, there's lean manufacturing methods. All this has contributed to more efficient construction manufacturing methods. Residential housing is really behind the curve. Some of the reason for the lack of labor efficiency in residential houses is regulation. Like there's more safety requirements on job sites. That's okay. That's not a bad thing. But you're having to replicate that for every single job site. It's inefficient. You also just have you have more waste on a job site. You have more waste of time because of weather delays and things like that. And so us factory building homes, modular homes in our factory, and using lean manufacturing techniques, we can build homes a lot more efficiently. We can lower the cost. We can make smaller homes make more sense. We can make smaller homes pencil for development projects. So let's just talk about what modular home is for a second, and then we'll talk more about the missing middle as well. A modular home, when I say that, there might be an image that comes to your mind. It might be a mobile home, or it might be a Clayton manufactured home. But a modular home really is a residential home. The only difference between a site-built home and a modular home is that the modular home is constructed and inspected in the factory. That's really the only difference. It's delivered on site, fully assembled. It's not a kit. It's delivered on site, fully assembled, and it's craned onto a crawl space or a foundation. You still need a general contractor to move the dirt and to lay the foundation, but our house comes fully assembled. It might come in more than one module, but it comes fully assembled and gets craned onto its resting place and plumbed in and tied down. So as far as like how it banks, it finances, appraises, deeds, all of that is the same as a residential home. It's also the same building codes to the locality to where it's going. When we're doing tiny homes on wheels, that's a national building code. It's called American National Standards Institute for Park Model RVs. And we're able to do one building code and ship all over the US. But when we build modular, that's built to the local building code, just like site-built homes. So really no difference there. So I really like this slide. This really shows the missing middle. And I think this really helps it kind of land. And so what you have here on the bookends, with the illustrations that are shaded like light blue and gray on the bookends, you have single family homes, and then you have high-rise apartments and condos. These are what we currently build right now. We're really not building all of the things in the middle. And these are all things that we used to build for housing. It's the houses that are shaded beige. And these are your duplexes, multiplexes, cottage clusters, pocket neighborhoods, row houses, and things like that. These are all the different shapes and sizes of houses that we used to build, but we don't anymore. And all of these can be achieved with modular construction. All of these, even if it's multifamily, you can stack them, you can deliver them in separate modules, and you can build a quadplex or multiplex with those.
For another case study. So Jason was a man that called us a couple of years ago. He had just bought property on Lookout Mountain. He really loved tiny homes and he wanted to live in one. Bought this property and he's thinking to himself, well, I'm looking left and I'm looking right.
there's mobile homes falling apart on either side, so surely I should be able to put a brand new tiny home out there. And I had to tell him, well, the code that Tiny Homes on Wheels is built to is different from a mobile home. So just because you see mobile home structures nearby, it doesn't mean that Tiny Homes on Wheels be allowed. And in fact, they aren't, because it's still within Hamilton County, and they're not allowed, especially not as primary dwellings. So what that meant for him is that he would have to site build. So his timeline is now tripled or quadrupled, waiting for a contractor that's going to take on a small project, and it's going to cost him a lot more money.
Yeah, what is that major hurdle with building these and placing these accounts? How do they realistically differ than like mobile homes?
Yeah.
Because they're both, you know,
So Hamilton County is not unique in this regard. This is basically how the entire country still operates. The code that we're building Tiny Homes on Wheels to is an American National Standards Institute code for park model recreational vehicles. And that's a placeholder code for our industry that we kind of have to use in order to service the whole country. The mobile homes are built to HUD code, and that's something that's not on a trailer or not on a chassis. But since we've got VIN numbers on them, the government views those as vehicles, and there's a lot of zoning restrictions on where you can and cannot live in a vehicle full time. And those have been in place for decades. And the tiny home industry is still fairly new. It's been around for about really maybe 10 years since it started booming. So it's growing at a much faster pace than what government can react to and make way for. So we are seeing municipalities pass ordinances to make room for tiny homes on wheels in a thoughtful manner. But we've yet to have that happen here in Hamilton County. Yeah.
So you said. Wasn't a lot of difference in the margin and site build.
Mhm.
Foundation. So what would Jason doing?
He could do a modular home. He was specifically, this was a couple years ago, he was wanting one on wheels. Yeah. So the reason why we branched into the modular building category, we're kind of making a lot of we're advocating for a couple of different things. We're advocating for smaller housing, but we're also advocating for approaching construction a little bit differently in order to solve these problems that prevent us from building these types of housing. So we're also advocating for modular. He could do a modular home, and that's why we're starting to build that category, because when you do a modular home, like Paul said, it's built to the state residential code. So those would not be mobile. Once they move from the factory to the foundation, they are permanently installed by a general contractor. And that's why they're allowed to, you can get the same mortgages as you could for a traditional home with a modular home. They get deeded to the property. So if Jason wanted to take his home and move it to South Carolina in the future, he would not be able to do that. So there's some pros and cons to the different categories. And we're gonna advocate for both.
Yeah, on this slide, we wanted to talk a little bit more about the societal effects of the absence of the missing middle. And you hear a lot of different terms that get thrown around related to, say, gentrification, redlining, displacement, inability to age in place, opportunity zones, which is a good thing, but we need more of them. All of these are examples of societal issues that could be alleviated if we had more housing alternatives. And so I think a really good example, especially I like the age in place example, because, you know, at different stages of your life, you need a different type of house. When you're first starting out your career, maybe you're single, you just need one house or one apartment. You don't need a big single family home with lots of bedrooms and bathrooms. Maybe you need that in the middle of your life. And then later on, maybe you're empty nesting, or you're trying to retire. Maybe you want to retire early, you want to downsize and get into a smaller home. And so that's really important for all of these different shapes and sizes of homes to be in each neighborhood, so that people can live in the neighborhood that they want to live in throughout their life. Because a lot of people are getting displaced from not being able to find the type of housing that they need at that stage of life. And so, you know, when it comes to the missing middle, it's kind of getting, it has challenges in those 4 areas that Amelia was talking about earlier, but to really highlight 2 of them, it gets back to what a contractor told us one time. He said, you know, there will never be, you know, any more houses built that are less than 1,400 square feet. The ones that were built in the 50s and earlier, those are the ones we have. You know, from now on, houses are just going to be bigger. And we're thinking, well, you know, people don't really want that. And we talk to those people every day, like Jason in the previous slide. And so that's why we're talking about how the efficiencies gained with modular homes and that construction category and the innovation there can make it work to build smaller homes and put new home construction on the market in the 200,000s and the 300,000s. If you've been house shopping lately, you know what's out there right now in those price brackets, and you probably have not been happy with what you're seeing. And you're probably thinking about how much it's going to cost twice as much just to renovate the home that you're seeing. And so we're really advocating for smaller homes, factory built homes that are very nice, but they're going to fit the needs of a lot of people, and they're also going to be more affordable. We like to say affordable luxury a lot. And then the other thing is there's just issues with perception. I think that, you know, we have so much in our society, we have so much of our capital and our balance sheet tied up in our homes, and they're expensive. They cost a lot of money to repair. And so people are really concerned about the value of their home and wanting to protect that, which you can understand. But a lot of times what happens is they use the zoning and the ordinance laws to sort of leverage that and to protect their home value, or at least their perceived, you know, what's a perceived threat to their home value, and not really think about what's best for the community. And so, yeah, do you want to talk a little bit more about?
Yeah, I would just say that, you know, when you're only building a few types of housing, you're creating a massive just feeding frenzy of people who need housing, but they all have to compete for the same exact thing. And if you allow for different types of housing to exist, then like someone who's single can bid on a home that is right for them, and then they're not also in the same bracket as a small family that's trying to grow, that has 2 or 3 kids. Like, this is also contributing to the rising prices of housing when we don't have different types.
Yeah, and I think what else I want to say about perception is that what people run into is they're using zoning and ordinances to protect their home value, but really zoning and ordinances are a health and safety consideration for communities. They're not meant to legislate just to help people protect their home value. And so we need to really get over this perception. And like Amelia was saying, we need to change this so that people can understand that different shapes and sizes of homes are okay. And just looking at the different slides we showed you, Meredith, John, Jason, these different case studies, these people would be great neighbors. These people are not going to, even though they're living in a smaller home, they're not going to bring down your neighborhood. And these are people that, you know, they don't want to live in a small home because, you know, there's something wrong with them. You know, they want to live in a small home. They just want to spend their money differently. They don't want to spend it on home repairs. They don't want to spend it on a mortgage. Maybe they want to spend it on traveling or eating out or their hobbies or something like that. And people should have the freedom to do that. And zoning laws and ordinances should not prevent people from doing that.
And Chattanooga does not have a minimum square footage requirement. Red Bank does, and a lot of other areas do. But that's something that's starting to pop up. It's becoming more and more popular across the country, but it is actually unconstitutional to require someone to build a larger home because there's no basis in health or safety in that kind of ordinance. There's nothing less safe about a small home. There's nothing less healthy about it. But one initiative that is going on in Chattanooga right now is the Parks and Outdoors Plan, and protecting our green spaces, making sure everybody is within walking distance of the park. And a lot of the reasons why they're prioritizing that is for the same reasons why we advocate for the missing middle. When people have access to opportunity, it's better for everyone. I put some statistics in here about 1 in 4 children are living and growing up in poverty in Chattanooga. and that Chattanooga is ranked among the worst places in America in helping poor children up the income ladder. And so providing different types of housing so that we can less burden parents so that they can raise their children and give them more opportunity is also a part of that. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna breeze through it then. So this is where we put some statistics up about the modular industry. And obviously the big one is time and money. If we can complete a project up to 30 to 50% faster, that starts making things possible for developers. That means we can start doing cottage clusters and other types of housing. This compound annual growth rate of 7.6 in the United States for the modular construction shows us that this is alive and well. That represents a compounding growth of over 100% over the next 10 years. So even though we haven't seen these projects in Chattanooga, there are other cities leading the way. And if we see ourselves as a lighthouse city, we need to start being accepting of these types of projects. Well, they can come work at our factory every day and know where they're going and not have to drive out to a different location every day. They know that they have work every day instead of, oh, it's raining, I don't have a job today. So it's a little bit more reliable for workers too. What's that? Pros and cons to it, but I think the pros outweigh the cons.
You know, modular housing has been really popular for a long time in the Pacific Northwest and in New England, where they don't have as many supply houses, and they don't have the skilled labor force to support residential home construction. So they've been doing this for a long time. But what we're seeing in the Southeast now is that supply can't keep up with demand, and we're having a shortage of workers. And yeah, new construction just can't keep up with demand. So that's another reason to bring this forward. Did you have anything else in this slide? Okay.
So we're not reinventing the wheel. There are people out there spearheading these types of projects. And this is where we highlight just a few of them. Since we're short on time, I'm going to focus on my favorite one, which is South Park Cottages. This is in College Park in Atlanta. Their ribbon cutting is next month. I'm so excited to see this open. Each of those homes, 29 of them total, was pre-sold within a matter of weeks. And they redid the zoning. The mayor worked with him and let him write what he wanted the zoning to be, which is incredible. So these are detached condominiums. The developer retains ownership of the land, and the people who are purchasing the homes own the structure, and they can sell it if they want to in the future. Did some creative design with the walking trail that goes around the neighborhood that's actually wide enough for a fire truck. So that keeps the emergency response people very happy. And this developer is actually taking on, well, two new projects. He's doing Union Park down by the airport in Atlanta, because that mayor was like, well, I see what you did in College Park, and we want that same thing here. Word of mouth is getting around. Well, he's doing a 46 home micro home development here in Chattanooga and Eastdale. He's in project approval stages. Might have heard of it by now, but it's Post Pro Capital. We had him out to our shop a couple months ago. We are super excited that he is the one that's going to make this community here in Eastdale. We hope to bid on it for sure.
Yeah, those are anywhere between I think 600 and 1100 square feet, I believe.
300 to 650.
Oh, the South Park?
Yeah.
300 to 650.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. It's way off. Casada homes in this corner up here. Those are actually for rent. This is a company out of Texas, and these could easily be built as modular homes. And Wind River is actually we're gonna come out with our own concept for a development similar to this. It really kind of dialed in what people need. Not everyone wants to share walls. Not everyone wants to live in an apartment, but they still want to rent. And so they created this concept, lots of amenities, lots of common space, smart home features, parking, walkability, dog park, things like that. So we also hope to bring other rental concepts to the market as well. So at this point, we're starting to wind down the presentation at this point. We want to get to your questions. So this is kind of the last thing that we'll mention, but earlier Michael was showing his slides, and he was showing the climate action plan and how they went before city council, educated city council, and showed them this plan. It got passed. That's a huge success. That's really what we need to be doing with these housing related considerations. And last year we went downtown. We met with the mayor. We met with the county planning commissioner and the mayor's chief of staff, and really told them about what we're doing and what we're trying to bring to the local community here. But it really takes everyone advocating to city council and educating city council. So we're actually building a unit right now that we have an invitation to bring it downtown and park it in front of city council and let them tour it. And so we're planning on doing that later this year. Really excited about that. But it's really going to take a group effort. It's really going to take everyone, having a voice, being more focused on what's going on in your backyard as far as politics and new laws that are being passed to advocate for what can be better for everybody.
This particular ordinance language is for us suggesting an amendment to the ordinance that passed last May for accessory dwelling units. If you own a single family lot in Chattanooga, you can by right add an accessory dwelling to your property up to 700 square feet, but it does not include tiny homes on wheels. So we gave him this and said, hey, if we adopt this here in Chattanooga, I think we can actually expedite and help serve more people, because like when I was talking to Justin from Moving Strong, they're not taking on these types of projects because it does not make any sense for them to build that small, but with offsite construction, it does.
An accessory dwelling, that's like a small home.
Yeah, so accessory dwelling refers more to the function of a home. So this would be a home in the backyard on a single family lot where there's a traditional home already there. Yeah, so it doesn't mean, it could be up to, cities define this differently. In Chattanooga, it's up to 700 square feet. Is that it?
Yeah, thanks everyone. It's 5 till. If you have to go for work, each breaks over, you're more than welcome to get up and go, but we'd love to take some questions. We'd love to get your feedback on the presentation. Yes, sir.
How much do your modular homes cost per foot, like per square foot?
Yeah, so the question was, how much do the modular homes cost on a square foot basis? So the buildings themselves, they're going to range anywhere between 250 to 350 plus a square foot. So one of the reasons why that's higher than what you might expect is because it has a larger concentration of kitchen and bathroom because it's smaller. So when you look at square foot price, you really have to look at the weighted average of the square foot, the different pieces of the house. So that number goes down as we build larger units. Yeah, so material prices have gone up a lot lately. But yeah, that's the cost of the building itself. But, tiny homes on wheels. So that's the modular homes. Tiny homes on wheels. We've sold tiny homes on wheels that are in the $400s and $500 a square foot. We've seen our clientele and being able to finance that as well. So we've seen that in the tiny home industry, that people are able to make that bankable, to make it work with their budget.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it's questions.
So I think real estate is 997, so they talk a lot about state prices and builders, and I feel like you made your comments, I feel often that builders brought along. However, now we've gone to Nashville and had this conversation, the main problem is in your appraisal and your bank situation. So a neighborhood is saying minimum square footage is 1,000 square feet or 3,000. It's because that neighborhood has a certain appraisal. If the value drops for any reason, all of those points owners can claw back that mortgage immediately. So are you guys working with the banks and lenders and appraisers?
Yeah,
to talk this through, because I think that would be extremely important.
this question came up yesterday too. We had some builders actually from the Nashville area out to our shop and showed around, and they brought up the same concern. I think that one tactic that I've heard, at least from one other real estate agent, is accompanying the appraiser when they're on the property. And if they have questions, that you can address it in real time. Would you have anything to add to that?
They don't allow that is actually the document act that happened. And prevents us from actually talking to appraisers. They're supposed to have no influence whatsoever. They just get the contract. And so they are required by the laws, and this is Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, that they have to pull from that immediate neighborhood. So that's what I'm saying. It's very, like you said, there's so many layers to it, but I think that's a good place to start. Is getting appraisers that know their hands are completely fine.
Yeah.
I wish we could talk, they don't allow it.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I would just say that, yeah, I mean, we definitely think that there's hurdles to doing what we're doing. But at some point, you just have to get out there and innovate and take a leap of faith in some ways. But we're also, we have another presentation that's more of an industry-based kind of presentation. This is our advocacy presentation. But we have some invitations right now to take that and present that at First Horizon Bank and at Tennessee Valley Federal Credit Union. And so we're starting to take this to more banks as well. But I think it's a great point, Becky, about the appraisers, and it's a real hurdle. Madison.
Yeah, I was on your website and others, and I saw that financing is not usually allowed on these types of homes. I don't know, do they need for modular?
Yes, absolutely. So with the tiny homes on wheels, those are personal property. And so the loans, there are loans for those, but it works more like a motorhome loan or a loan for a boat or something like that for recreational use. So there are lending products out there for that. We mainly work with 21st Mortgage out of Knoxville for that. But then for the modular homes, yeah, there's absolutely, and we were at a home show in Nashville this weekend. We talked to 2 or 3 bankers that lend for modular homes, but we've also, it's also happening here locally. Like we know that, such and such a bank has lent for a modular project here in Chattanooga. And so, yeah, it would be just, even an FHA loan, you should be able to get all the different regular mortgages, 30-year terms, etc. Yes.
I know there's a real need here in Chattanooga for homes for people with disabilities. And you touched on that a little bit with your aging in place, but even younger people who maybe using a motorized wheelchair, whatever. Do you have any plans in a smaller scale for someone?
Yes. Mhm. Yes, we can do ADA compliance within the smaller space, have the clearance with the doorways, the clearances of the bathroom and the different rails that you need and things like that. So we do have that. And there's no reason why you can't have like the ramps and everything built outside of the home. So they can be ADA compliant and fulfill that need as well.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yes, sir.
Two questions. I'll ask the first one and answer. And that is, how do you interface with HUD? What are the incentives? But the other is, several years ago, I consulted with a guy who made his fortune in the coal industry. And so he was buying up all the surface mines and building homes like this on there, which could be used mobily or could stay where they were. And he had done a really fabulous job in the way that he designed it.
Yeah.
So that every inch was used in there. What about, have you tried to do this kind of thing in terms of farms? 200 or 300 acre farms?
Yeah, well, that's first of all, that's a great story. I mean, it sounds like he's kind of paying it back, But yeah, there's definitely some great examples of tiny home villages, RV parks, and those are usually rural areas. There's a big industry out there right now for people doing short-term rentals on farms. I haven't seen people necessarily convert their farmland to an RV park. Haven't seen that so much. But it would work great as an application, and it's usually in the correct zoning for that. And to your first question about, about HUD, we're not regulated by HUD. For the tiny homes on wheels, those are park model RVs of less than 400 square feet, and those are outside of the HUD regulations. If we go over that, then it is subject to HUD. It sort of defaults to a manufactured home or mobile home at that point. And so the modular homes, that's under the International Residential Code and inspected by the people that are certified with the International Code Council. And but just to talk a little bit more about HUD, they're under a lot of pressure right now to find housing solutions for people. That's some of the first place that lawmakers look to. And I have to say that they're kind of they're grasping for straws right now. And they did have a innovative housing summit. I think that's what it was called last year on the National Mall. And our industry did show up for that. And one of our industry partners took a tiny home to that. And I think that hopefully that bears some fruit eventually, but I think that HUD could be a way forward. But also for the tiny homes on wheels, the International Code Council is now partnering with our industry organization to create an appendix to the residential code that would allow tiny homes on wheels. So we're excited about that too. But yeah, we're at time. One more question. One more.
So, I appreciate your product. I'd like to switch the conversation if you're willing to apply your experience and knowledge to affordable housing. What is your concept or what can be done that you guys are saying to help the affordable housing?
Yeah, I mean, I'd say that we're working on that. We should talk more about after this because that's actually a pretty long discussion. Yeah, but we yeah, the way that we build is usually we in the past we've been kind of on the higher end. So just as a manufacturing application, it's actually really difficult for us right now to build to the lower price point that's usually palatable for people that are wanting to do something that's more like relief type of housing. But we are right now, I think the next step for us on the design side is to look at how we can get the price down with our current construction methods. And then after that, I think the next step for us will be looking at trying to do something even more radical than that. Thank you all so much. This was great. Really appreciate the opportunity.
You guys stick around for
Yeah.
a couple minutes
Yes.
for follow-up questions? Okay, great. Thank you, everybody, for coming out. Green Space, really appreciate your support and your interest in this really important and dynamic subject. It's rapidly changing. There's, new things coming out every day. So definitely stay in touch and keep up with Wind River to stay up to date on the latest. If you have any questions, please come up afterward and we can continue the discussion.
Yes.
And we'll see you at Green Drinks and Eco Field Day. Thank you.